Right, so I don't really know. Obviously, like I said, that's another thing. I really need to get myself a new camera because obviously mobile phone, it has its good sides. It's simple, but yeah, it's got issues. First, yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you had any questions from last stream that haven't been addressed, just you carry them over here, so we can continue because we were rudely interrupted. Yeah, of course. I mean, I can't just cut it off and then basically fuck off to nonsense. I have to obviously continue before I can finish it up and bring it to any kind of logical conclusion. Because we were in the middle of something and we got rudely interrupted by the crash. So yeah, not good. Not happy with that. Well, my suggestion is basically stick with the evidence. The evidence we have tells us that they weren't much bigger, if at all, than 12 meters in length and in a range of 7 to 9 tons. That's my observation personally, and that's what the evidence says. And that's what I would say. That's only I suggest. You know what I would suggest, obviously. I would never suggest something that's outside of what the evidence tells us. So I'd say stick with that. That's all we do. We just stick with the evidence. And of course, if we do find that massive 6-foot long whatever skull of a T-Rex, then we could potentially rethink our ideas, but for now that's not happening. Pixelated? How badly is it pixelated? Is everybody getting the same problem? Guys, come tell me if you're having the same problem with the pixelated screen. Okay, so yours is okay. Anybody else? Just give feedback, everyone. Okay, so it must be only on your side then. If everyone else is fine, then it means it's only on your side. Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's hope that it doesn't crash again, at least until we get to the point of logical conclusion of this session. Because I really, really sometimes get very pissed at these problems because it's like it doesn't, you know, quite finish the stream properly. So I mean, chances are either I'm streaming at the same time, both of them, which I don't think it is because it never gave me the option to resume. Because sometimes if it like doesn't work properly, last time at least it gave me the option to resume, and it didn't do that this time. So it means that it must have crashed like for good. So I had to restart the whole new thing. But that's okay. It makes it easier in that sense because at least you won't be watching like a straight up several hours video, so you can basically then come back and do, you know, do the other one. And then just kind of play and pause them in the meantime. If you are just joining, whatever. Those who will be catching up after obviously this gets uploaded to the channel. Well, the difference between Tyrannosauroid and Tyrannosaurid is is the term which includes certain groups or taxa. Tyrannosauroidia basically is more inclusive. It includes a lot more taxa in a wider scope of periods as well, while Tyrannosaurida only includes what a lot of people frequently say as quote-unquote true tyrannosaurs. Which means that Tyrannosauroidia is a more inclusive family. It's just like, for example, Allosauroidia is a big inclusive group. Less inclusive ones are the branches, which are included in the big group as well. So within Allosauroidia, for example, you have Allosaurida, you have Metriacanthosaurida, Carcharodontosaurida, Neovenatorida, and etc. etc. With Tyrannosauroidia, it's the same thing, but only you have two established families. You have Proceratosauridae and you have Tyrannosauridae, and there are obviously some minor kind of things within them as well that, you know, you have like Albertosaurinae and you have a Tyrannosaurinae as well. Just like with ceratopsids, you have Chasmosaurinae and you have Centrosaurinae. So basically the ending of these things, they dictate how big and inclusive the group itself is. So everything with Aroidia is going to be more inclusive as a group in contrast to Rida, and everything with you know, that says Rene, you know, like different spelling as well, that's even more focused on specifics. So it's kind of, you kind of slowly go the way down to the branches where it narrows down the taxa and the species as well, probably. Well, I mean, not species, because single taxon may have multiple species, and that means they're still belonging in the same taxon. So sorry if I confused you there. Yeah, sorry Scorpio, but we don't need to hear that, I'm afraid. That's a bit irrelevant, don't you think? Childish and irrelevant. I mean, making jokes is nice, but let's not just bring up these kind of unnecessary comments, please. Try to kind of keep it, you know, witty, funny, cool, relaxed, but not completely irrelevant to the subject. Oh, Nolan, there's it's basically it's like a beating up the dead horse now, if I'm gonna to go over this again. The very basic summary of it, that he made some scenes about certain things that I was discussing. He didn't make any decent arguments whenever I challenged him. Then he, as always, went on to personal attacks, which he couldn't support either, as he usually never does. And then at the end of it, I just said, hey, I tell you what, man, I'll give you a platform, come to my channel and let's debate. Let's have an honest conversation. If you have a problem with me, you're welcome to express your criticism, and let's do it live. Let's let people watch it and let's talk. like right now basically, and literally maybe even do a Skype call and record it, and whatever, anything. But he turned it down, and well, with the reason that apparently that would alienate, you know, that would be like me trying to steal his following from him. You know what I mean? So talk about finding, you know, somebody's faith in their audience disturbing. Yeah, I think I do find that disturbing. You know, you have to have faith in your audience. If you're so righteous, if you're so confident, why are you doubting your audience? Why are you so sure that this is going to have any negative repercussion? If you're so confident and so sure of yourself, why not have the honest conversation? And we all know what happens, why people refuse honest conversations. Because there's a lot of intellectual dishonesty going on there. And usually it means that the other person knows that it's gonna get called out. And he doesn't want that. But that's just that's what I heard from it anyway. Well, it depends what you define as okay person. I honestly think it depends what you define as an okay person. And I'm not here to bash anyone, so I'm not gonna get into deeper things about it. You can go back to my videos and you can take a look for yourself. And then tell me if after that you still consider somebody like that an okay person. If you still do, that's fine. I don't mind that. You're welcome to your own ideas and beliefs. That's not gonna alienate me from yourself at all, even if you still decide to think that way. That's fine by me. However, I can definitely disagree with that, but that's not the point of the discussion though here, is it? So, in short, yeah, there were moments there, but yeah, like I said, I'm not really gonna get into deep kind of processes of this. If the guy wants to make a point, he's welcome to come here and have a live debate and conversation with me about it. I will not accept anything else. Just throw in random comments on my videos. No, not gonna even respond to that. I can say that from get-go. I'm not even going to respond to that. I'm only going to respond if the guy genuinely wants to have an honest conversation. So, and to be honest, he's kind of irrelevant anyway to whatever we are doing here. Doesn't even matter. He does his things, I do my things. Okay, we're not exactly getting in each other's way. He doesn't step on my feet, I don't step on his heels. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I made some response videos to him when we had our interactions before, so you can catch up on that. Just go back a few things. It's like, I think it's something like to do with why I don't support Saurian. Speaking of that as well, I am actually, once again, coming back to where I started. I don't intend to support them. I was reconsidering it at some point actually, but all the no's outweighed the yes. So therefore no, not supporting it. Just too much intellectual dishonesty going on in that community, and I just don't want to be part of it. That's simple as that. Nor do I want to give them any of my money either. But that is provided that it's ever going to be made into a proper completed product, which I kind of start doubting, but hey, again, I shouldn't say things like that because it's gonna hurt someone's feelings, it's gonna trigger somebody, and if I'm correct in my predictions, I will be blamed for it, so I can't let that happen, can I? Yeah, apparently they have them on the sides. They're not major, they're small, but they do kind of stand out a little bit, like in a couple rows, like in this kind of manner, so they will be sort of spread out a little bit. Michael, spell my name properly, please. It's with an E at the end. Stop dropping that E at the end. That's inaccurate. That's not accurate. Yeah, you too, you too. Take care, Mike, bro. Right. I'm pretty sure they do have. I mean, I'm gonna double check the osteoderms on the side. I'm just gonna double check that just in case, because I read it somewhere, but again, I need to backtrack on it, because at the time when I was reading all the info for it, by the time I got to sculpting, to the point here, I already forgot where I got that from. So I need to get back to, like, just backtrack it a little bit. So I will double check that before I bake it. Check it before you bake it. No, SVP presentations are just that. They're just presentations, they're just people sharing, you know, their thoughts, their work maybe, that they are preparing to get out there potentially. But they're just ideas being put on the table. They're not actually considered to be peer-reviewed referential material. They're just discussions, basically. That's all there is. It's the same thing as discussing things on a forum, essentially. To dumb it down to that degree, that's what it is, basically. It's a meeting of people who are from the community, who are professionals usually, but everybody else is usually welcome because they're usually like audiences there. I've never been on one, but I've seen how the recordings go, so based on that I can say that. And because I know people who are professionals who go to SVP meetings, and that's basically what they do. They present whatever materials that they work on, they suggest certain ideas, and sometimes these discussions, they generate some potential for new material to be researched and published, and sometimes it gives birth to new studies which will later be published if there's more evidence to support the study, for example. That's basically what it is, and that's how it should be treated. It's just a good thing to kind of look at and just to get an understanding of where people are coming from, but it's not to be used as the referential material on the same level as, say, the published material in scientific literature. Right. Yes, sort of. I mean, if you were to kind of put it very simply, that's kind of like a preview to what potentially could be the next paper. It doesn't always mean it's gonna go that far, because some ideas that get presented, they don't really have a strong base to make a paper. But let's be honest, there are some papers that don't have very good bases either. Some papers are really leaning on very obscure and ambiguous material, and of course it means we still treat it as scientific knowledge, and that's why a lot of times when we have certain papers being published and we can see where the problems are, they're really obvious, and that's why we always wait for that moment when a follow-up comes, so we have better material presented in that regard. because a lot of the material out there does beg for a bit more than it presents, to be honest. But essentially, yes, it's like a preview, and at this point, it sometimes allows the potential publisher, to get an idea what they can do from there on to maybe come up with better testing, arguments to be put on a table in order for it to be published later. Yeah, I guess. Flinch. Yep, probably. Okie dokie. So, as you can see, sculpting can be quite a long process, and that's why most of the times what I do is I play a movie in the background, or I play videos, or listen to specific, lectures or something. That helps me just keep the process going while I'm busy doing this. It's not a quick process, it takes time, but it pays off in the long run. So I'm gonna just take a brief break because my hands are a little bit tired and my eyes are a bit tired as well. So we're just gonna take a brief break, and I will show you a few things for the camera, and then we'll get back to sculpting again. So let's put Maurice on the side here. Now, this here, what you can see, is going to be later made into a mold for parts of a velociraptor for the diorama that I'm preparing. So, as you can see, it's ready. It will need to be made some barriers here, and then when I get the silicon, when I save up some money to get some more, to get a bigger bulk of silicon, I will use this, and then when we flip it, we'll pour more, and it will be a two-part mold for this set of parts for a velociraptor. So let's see what else. Maybe I can show you something else from my display. This is the piece I assembled a long time ago. That's an old kit of Giganotosaurus from the artist named Jorge Blanco. There's his signature right there as well at the bottom, right here. And it's a very old kit, as you can see, based on the fact that it's a bit shrink wrapped, and unfortunately, and also it has a massive head, which should be smaller. So it's a bit out of proportion. And yeah, that's basically what this is, and that's how I did the paint job for it. So let's see if it is going to focus properly at any point. That would be much appreciated, camera. But no worries, we'll have our own Giganotosaurus, hopefully sooner than later too. I plan to make one. Because you cannot make a T-Rex and not make a Giganotosaurus to put next to it, right? It just doesn't go otherwise, right? So we'll do that. And yeah, hold on a second, let me just put the, yeah. Now, Let's see, what else I can show you. This is, I think it's a discontinued piece, but that's my kind of replica collectible of Sauron's mace from Lord of the Rings. And this is my Tyrion Lannister figurine. I've got a dragon goblet. And I have this small mini replica of SS Great Britain ship. It's right now it's turned into a museum, which you can find in Bristol at the port. So I also got this small sailboat replica from my trip to Edinburgh a long time ago. I think that's where I got it from, I can't remember. Yeah, we need a, well, we've got a wine glass right here, so it kind of solves the problem that way. Now, let's also show you this. So how do you ignite it? Oh yeah. Right, so yeah, in my opinion, for something that's supposed to be quite, you know, nimbly and quick, it's a bit heavy. It's very heavy. So if it was made properly, I think it should have been much lighter. Unless they intend for it to be used two-handed, but it's not particularly comfortable for two-handed grip. So yeah, that's a bit awkward. So I mean, if I were to kind of use it like this way, you know, that would be kind of okay, but right, like so, only good for just, don't know. So yeah, let's put that back for now. And how do we do it? Let's do it this way. Let's do it this way, like so. Yeah, there we go. And put it back. Let's see what you guys saying. Right. Unrealistically avoids shrink wrapping. They seem to shrink wrap anyway, but smooth over the fenestry. Well, I mean, the truth is, not all animals were supposed to be 100% rounded. The point is obviously to hide the fenestres, which is correct way of doing it, but some animals were just lean animals. It's just how it is. Not all of them were big and rounded and whatever, and massive. Some of them were just genuinely very lean animals, and that's perfectly okay. But obviously, making them overly fat is also wrong. Don't get me wrong, I don't approve of that either. I only approve of something that I consider to be within the conservative, acceptable range, so to speak. That's my kind of approach to it. So let's put everything back quickly, and we will show you some more stuff before we resume the process. So, yeah, I saw some of you guys really wanted that goblet. I think you can probably find even cooler ones nowadays online. But yeah, that's basically, I think this is meant to be the drinkable part of it, if you were to actually drink it, and this is just decorative part here. So, there we go. Then here I have some dice, which are yes, I agree with that, Nolan. I'm of that same kind of idea. That's why I made my a few things like that on the details here on my Stegosaurus. This is the dice from old Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. And this one is from the old Warhammer Fantasy. Yes, I would say 100%. I'm definitely 100% with you on that. There's no reason to suggest why it would not be possible, because it's factor in the health, factor in the age, factor in many other things that could have just potentially affected their growth. I mean, they would be around the same mostly, but they would still have enough variations. Right, so let's show you some more things and then we will resume. So here I have this kind of caricature minifigure of medieval knight. I think what it means that he's got a long sword. He has 15th century armor, which doesn't quite tell me exactly what type of 15th century armor it is, probably early period, likely. And the helmet, although for some reason is an armet, which is supposed to be a later 15th century helmet. So it's a bit weird, but still awesome. Right. Then I have this very old cheap replica of Caucasian 19th century dagger, which again, like I said, it's cheap because the scabbard's falling apart, and I got it as a present a long time ago, so there is that one. And I've got this little Terminator thingamajiggy, which is the T3. And from the museum in London I got this sauropod made of stone of some sort. I don't remember what exactly it is though. Probably marble, I presume. What's the Paleoartist handbook? Remind me please, what is this? So I got a T-Rex tooth replica right here. And we have this guy, which I've recently painted, which I was doing a live stream a long time ago. But here we can see... no, I haven't looked at it. You can see some... See if we can focus on it, maybe. Some more paint job, some here. So yeah, this is available to purchase, by the way. This is available now. Both, you can either do a commission, so it's a fully built and painted version, or you can order the kit. And I will include the link in the description, hopefully I don't forget it, but if you're already subscribed to my page on Facebook, you can order it from there. Now, what else can we show you? Of course, one of my favorite paintings from Wallace collection, The Laughing Cavalier. I love this painting. And got a bunch of books here. And yeah, there is evidence apparently somewhere that I'm breaking English language. Their eggshells were painted blue. I will need to find and backtrack what paper it was, but there is actually a publication on it. That's why I did that. So let's see what else I can show you. Oh, let's show you one more thing. You've seen this before. That's parts of a Echinocephalus made ready to be molded for the kit. So as you can see right here, we've got the head as well. And see these? There we go. So when it's gonna get molded and casted, it's gonna be basically as an assembled kit like that. And of course the same thing we can see from here. For the tail, same thing. I'm gonna turn it this way around because we love armor. There's no reason not to love armor. So here. Obviously the gaps can be filled in with a special material once you make the kit. So this is not the kit yet. This is the master model set, which will be molded and cast later. And right here, we've got same thing for the leg, see? And it goes on like so. This is me, that's basically what I painted for a friend of mine. It's a commission piece. So that's the Star Wars Legion, I think it's ATST. I think that's what it's called. So it's got a little bit of a desert base. He wanted a desert base, so we got him a desert base here. We also kept these parts detachable, so you can take it apart and put it in a carry suitcase, like so. And there we go. And put it back on. Right, let me just find something else for you to show, and then we will resume the work because I'm quite a bit rested now. Yeah, thanks for dropping the link. So if there's no paywall there, then feel free to have a look. But if there is a paywall, then I will later post either the link, or you can go to our Facebook group called Paleoworld, and it should be uploaded there. If it's not, then you can request it, and we will track it down for you. Books. So I'm not gonna take them all out. I'm just gonna take a couple. So I will have to reread this. That's The Last Wish from the Witcher series. I want to reread that again. I've got these 3 from a mega collection of historical armies by Osprey Publishing, right here. And well, of course you want dinosaurs, right? So let's get some dinosaur books out. So we got this one, and we have this one. So let's see what you guys are saying. Yes, I like to think that I do, although I'm not considering myself a patient person. But yes, I do. I have painted a lot of models already as well. I have quite a big collection of Horus Heresy models. I collect Alpha Legion. You will see some of them backtrack. If you go back, like lots of videos, I've done some video tutorials on them. I've done some just general overview videos. I don't have them here though, so they're all packed up in my suitcases because they're taking up space, so I needed to free up some space here. Yeah, hold on a second, let me just put that back where it belongs. There we go. Lovely jubbly. And let's sit back down. Oh! We have a Pteranodon plushie, by the way. Ooh, right. Oh, and speaking of Alpha Legion, I actually have a couple models here. They're heavily converted though, but yeah, there we go. I can't remember if it applies to all of them, but I mean, it's usually quite hard to say, because you know, when you only find one from a specific group, then you kind of course, on one hand tempted to say that's probably what they all did, but then do we really know until we find more? So we just default by just assuming that it was for all of them until we find something that tells us otherwise? I don't know. I mean, it can be a bit confusing, and also, well, I will need to reread the contents of the paper to be 100% sure, but if you haven't already done so yourself. But blue Rex on the shelf, where? Hold on a second, let me see. Where? What, this one? It's not really blue, it's like a gray with black. That was my old kit of 1 to 35 T-Rex. Well, yes, that's the whole point. They weren't exactly the prettiest, I can tell you that. So let's get back to sculpting a bit more, and we'll start getting ready for... Well, not really, don't have to conclude just yet. We can at least do another half an hour perhaps, or maybe more. Of course, you know, we've spent a long time chatting, and when you chat you get distracted a little bit, but that's absolutely fine. I specifically, you know, decided to do that so that we can both chat and at the same time enjoy the process. Thanks for helping out a little bit, Sam, because I obviously read the paper a long time ago, and I only read it once. Usually I tend to forget things very easily if I only read them once, unless I have to get back, obviously, and backtrack on it. And since I don't really know what exactly I will get asked during the streams, I obviously cannot predict what should I brush up on, so I can have answers to every question. But usually, yeah, lucky to have you guys to help out whenever necessary. Right, so let's add some more of this. Oh. If anybody thinks that sculpting is not physically tiring, you're wrong. I can tell you that for sure. Like, it does get tiring after some time, physically. Maybe I'm gonna dump the chair for a bit, because maybe sitting on the floor is actually gonna be a bit more comfy for now. Right, there we go. And what we can do as well, we can lower the camera a little bit and just brought it down on a level, so sorry if it gets a bit shaky. I'm not so sure about that particularly, because I think that most, if not all, Stegosaurs were, well, they would look mostly like a Stegosaur. It wouldn't really have a lot of resemblance. I think maybe Stegosaurus has a bit of both, because it's the earliest of the animals there. Like, you know, it's the earliest from in terms of the period, so it kind of makes sense that it's sort of, you know, the intermediate somewhere, which eventually gave rise to both of these, I would imagine. Like Scutellosaurus, Stegosaurus, you know. If you really look at them carefully, you might probably find that to be the case, but then again, well, I will need to brush up on that particular paper. So, one thing I could say for sure is when it comes to these kind of claims, they're incredibly difficult to test. So, you know, it's not like you can test it directly saying, so, you know, they've got scales and all, or they've got, I don't know, feathers, which they don't in case of T-Rex, but you know what I'm saying by that though. It's something where it's required actually physical presence of a feature that can be tested because you either have it or you don't. And if you later discover that they have it, then obviously you do the course correction in due process. But when it comes to these things, whether they were smart or not, or as smart as something, or smarter than something, or whatever, well, that's a trickier one, because it's a very abstract topic. It's incredibly difficult to prove, because it's almost impossible to test. You can make reasonable assumptions, but, you know, again, reasonable is also a very vague term. Like, what do you define reasonable, for example? What's the criteria for defining reasonable? So, yeah, incoming another plane. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, with the whole Stegosaurus thing, with Stenops versus Ungulatus, the problem is there has already been a study. I can't cite it directly because I don't remember the title, but it has been once in 2015 concluded that they were lumped into the same species, and both were Stenops, because Stenops, I believe, is the type species, which was the first name-bearing species. So, but then in 2017, I think, or 16, I think it was 17, by the same author reviewed the material and decided to split them up again. But obviously, like you said, yes, there's always this possibility that we need more specimens to distinguish. Maybe we will find more better preserved Ungulatus or and more Stenops to get a bigger sample, and then we can understand. The first important go-to thing as well is to understand whether or not they're actually from the same exact period. They're both from the same formation, but within the formation sometimes you have certain periods as well, and sometimes they don't intercept with one another. It could be either a case of three situations here. for different species, I think. You could say three. That's first one is that two species lived at the same time in the same period, same place as well. Second one could be that they would be two species which evolved one from another, one of them being the later period, the other one being the earlier, but which one is which? If that's the case, I cannot tell right now because I don't have it in front of me. But if that's the case, we have anagenesis potential here. But if that's not the case, oh wait, the third one actually was not for the species. That the third one would be basically same species, but different, potentially different genders. Or simply the size span may have been larger than we have expected. Maybe they were much broader. Maybe they could grow bigger, basically, than what we thought they did originally. That's just basically me kind of poking at variety of possibilities, and to prove any of them, or disprove rather, to be honest, because we try to disprove the hypothesis, is recover more specimens and understand which periods they associate with the most commonly and whether they intercept with one another. Yeah, thanks by the way for the compliments on the room. Yeah, I agree, it does look better. I've done some rearrangements here and I am happy with it. I've got some places here to clean up a little bit, which is not included in this area. This bit here, for example, I need to take out these places, you know, these things, and put them somewhere else, out of sight, because they're kind of ruining the whole setting. So maybe I will fill it up with more books in that place instead of the documents that I have there. But as far as, yeah, like morphological differences between the Stenops and the Ungulatus, I am not sure if they have anything particular to set them apart enough. So I really need to have a look at this 2017 study to see what made this author conclude that they were indeed different species of the same taxon, rather than just being something else. The problem as well is that it's hard to prove sexual dimorphism sometimes without having more evidence to test it, unfortunately. So kind of usually the alternative species tends to be the more common go-to case. Right. And this is also here to show you how it does take quite a while to get things done when it comes to sculpting, especially it's a big model. You want to make sure that you capture the details, you know, because details matter. Yeah, that's a good question. In some cases, maybe we would not even be able to distinguish them directly from just the skeletals, because I think some of the species, they get split up continentally. For example, yeah, we do have like gray wolf, for example, but I think the American species are considered to be different from the Eurasian ones, if I'm correct. unless they are still considered to be the same animal of just different geographical location. But I think they're considered to be different species, while generally not having a whole lot of things to be considerably different visually, unless of course there are detailed studies that tell us that there's something specifically different about them to distinguish them apart. Alright, okay, so let's just go over a few more details here and there. Well, I mean, I wouldn't call them horns because I don't think they quite qualify for the classic, you know, definition of what we define as horns. So this could be potentially confusing, but I know exactly what you mean. So what I think you're referring to are basically those areas here. Those things right here, right? And some of it on a snout tip here on the nose, some here. Yeah, you could probably do something like that. And I intend to give my T-Rex, when the time comes, a bit more pronounced. As a matter of fact, I have a Stegosaurus sterosus bust here. Hold on a second. If you haven't already seen it, that's the Stegosaurus sterosus bust that I have done. It's waiting also for its turn to get molded, but I think you've seen it already. But yeah, it's like these things, these kind of keratin, whatever things, rough areas, I think they are important because they can serve both as the ornament and potentially they can be something that could be, you know, like protective pieces that serves as an armor, because you know that would allow them to engage into certain specific dueling behavior maybe, or other kind of aggressive behavior, which we know they did. Yeah, it's possible they did. It's possible that maybe in some cases they did, and in other individuals maybe they did not. So there could be a variety of different things. It could be both. You know what I mean? Like there's no way to tell for sure whether it's only one or the other. It could potentially be the case that we would have both things happening in certain individual specimens if you were to potentially try to do some educated guesswork, which is obviously a dangerous territory, but, you know, it can be done. As long as you obviously set the criteria. I'm not gonna do a whole lot of chipped areas from here, just a few. Because I don't want to have too many plates on a row to be broken. Like we have this one, it's a little bit chipped, so if you can see that right here, like this right here. See, this plate over here is a bit chipped, so this one is gonna be a bit better, and the next one maybe is gonna be alright, and the one in the middle we might make it a little bit chipped as well. Life-sized bust. Unfortunately, I do not have any conditions necessary to be able to do that. I mean, I had to trim my list of projects that I plan for my 1 to 10 scale just because the space is gonna be a huge issue. So I had to basically cut down on it a little bit and just narrow it down as much as possible. So no, unfortunately, life-sized, unless it's a small animal, perhaps, is out of the question at the moment. Right. Yeah, hatchlings might be an idea potentially. For other life-sized, I mean, Stegosaurus is a decent option. Scutilosaurus is also a decent option. Eventually, we'll see what happens. We'll see. Compsognathus potentially as well. That's also a good one. Microraptor would be nice too, but again, with the amount of feathering, it's gonna be a bit tricky. But it's possible. Right, hold on a second, guys. We're gonna pause this for a bit because I want some biscuits. I want a snack. So apologies if I'm not gonna be replying immediately because I will be chewing on some biscuits because I really want some biscuits. I'm sorry, but I've been dying for a biscuit for a while now. But I finished my tea though. And you still haven't answered my question. What's the difference between the cookie and the biscuit? Well, I'm in Britain, so that means it should be biscuits, technically, if I am going to be. And by the way, I do occasionally use the, my expression when something goes wrong and if something just goes blah. I say shitty biscuit. Like if you play a game and someone kills you and you're like, oh, shitty biscuits, I'm dead. Yes. When we're done with this, then we will fix it up with the tail. Like so. No, we'll find a decent pose for it. Don't worry. It'll probably be something like that. Maybe more towards this way actually. And then we have more plates here, and then we'll have like spikes going like this way and this way and this way. Do you want me to make spikes really, sturdy and massive? I mean, I'm gonna try to stick to the real thing, of course, but they must have been covered in certain keratin as well, like Nolan, for example, says, because usually they tend to be, life restorations of these things, they tend to be with a bit more volume to them. So we're gonna make mega awesome spikes. Yeah, I watch both of them as well, when I have time, for sure. I've been watching Gaming Beaver's Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I'm always laughing my sick ass off whenever he does the Spartan kick to random people. It's hilarious, I don't know why. I'm a 34-year-old guy and I'm laughing at this shit. I can't believe myself. Like, how freaking sad is that? I should have worn something darker, by the way. That way the steg would have stood out a bit more. This is my old iPad, and just give you a bit of a... Yeah, see? there was a suggestion that Ungulatus would have had an extra pair or two, but I think it's heavily controversial because it might have been lumped in together by accident from another skeleton, so I don't want to kind of be a bit too risky with that in case it turns out to be wrong, so I'm just gonna stick to what we know for now. Yeah, okay. My reason for criticizing them, and let me actually grab my T-Rex for the demonstration purposes, and I will try to my best to explain. It might actually be a lot easier to explain it this way than if I were to type it in the comments. Sorry, let me just get closer. Get closer, oh, get closer. So you see this one here, yeah? So you see how they, you know what, hold on. Let's do it this way. Right? Yeah, let me just get a better grip on it. There we go. It's just so that you can see the silhouette as well. So basically you see how here, anatomically, this actually shouldn't be too large. I mean, this is the right kind of size. And this one here should be poking out a little bit. So they could be like this. So there should be like some kind of a ridge between them, kind of going like ting, clearly outlining which one is which. That is not to say that's impossible for you know, them to be completely fused and going all the way into one point, which would make JP T-Rex's brow horn somewhat relevant and accurate, but we do not know if that were the case. We only restore it based on what we can see, and there is really, that's the problem. Like JP Rex would have this whole, like they don't have this as pronounced as it should be. It's actually almost negligible on their model. Instead, they have this one which kind of protrudes to the side like massively. And there is no reason why it was that way. So that's my problem with it, to be perfectly honest. I hope that kind of answers the question, but that's basically it. It's just simply wrong anatomy. That's just all it is. It's simply wrong anatomy. Based on what we know for now. It might change. We never know for sure until we know, but for now, I think that's probably the best way to defend my reasoning of why I think it's wrong. And it's a generally supported idea. So, you know, if we are discussing things, obviously, and trying to be relatively conservative in how we restore these things, then yes, I'd say that's the reason why Jurassic Park's Rex got it wrong. Okay. Let's do a bit more sculpting. No, 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 no. By the way, is anybody who is watching this stream right now, or who will be joining later in the comment section once it gets uploaded, from the UK, who has been to the Throne Fest 2017 this year? Well, no, sorry, not this year. 2017 was last year. What the fuck am I talking about? This year's Throne Fest in spring. Anybody has been to that? Bloody well. I'm breaking English language tonight. I think I'm just completely going, yeah, crazy. So yeah, if you have What do you think, guys? Did you like it? It's the Game of Thrones festival that was in the UK last spring, this year. So what do you guys make of that? Has anybody been? Anybody wanted to go but couldn't make it? Because I've been there and I can share a few memories. Uh, did it get glitched or like what? I am trying to understand what happened. Did I glitch out when I was talking about the Throne Fest, the Game of Thrones festival? Anybody here into Game of Thrones, or am I the only one here who is into it? Why? Why do you think they trashed it, Mike? What's the problem? Let's talk about this. Let's discuss the issues. What do you mean by trashed it? Give some specifics. By the way, everybody caught up to the show so far. It's just to make sure that it's not that's spoiler free as well, so we don't end up spoiling by accident. So potential spoiler alert ahead. Well, I mean, we can discuss if you want. We can discuss it later off the stream. Or you can message me if you want to talk about it. Just exchange some thoughts. I have a few concerns and complaints of my own, although I don't think it was necessarily trashed altogether as a show. I would disagree with that general, rather, in my opinion, statement, but I do think they did certain things wrong, which I would not have done. Let's just say that way. Me, as a creative person, I would have done things slightly differently in certain areas, you know what I'm saying? Oh, okay, so I see what you mean, maybe, probably. Um, well, I mean, I don't know. You would have to point out specifics, but if you want, you can post it to me in the chat later, unless everybody here wants to discuss it, so. I am personally open to the discussion because I love Game of Thrones. I love to hate certain things about the way it's done certain things. I like certain things in the books. I like certain things in the show more than in the books as well. There are things and some deviations from the books that I actually approve and think they are more welcoming. But there are other ones that I don't think are particularly welcoming, and I gotta admit that despite the fact that I am in love with the saga, there is a problem with George Martin's writing as well. And one of it is that he tends to drag things out a bit too much. Yeah, for me, books 4 and 5 is where it started derailing a bit. It's almost like you're waiting for something big to happen, and you can pretty much skip the entire book to the end until you get to the main parts of it, essentially. Because there's just so much water there that's not needed to be there. It's just too much stuff that's just completely unnecessary, in my opinion. Could have been easily cut away, and it would not have even affected anything. But yeah, book 4 especially. Book 5 was more bearable for me. And again, I read them a long time ago, so, and only once. I haven't gone back to reread them, so I would have to obviously freshen up. But yeah, so far we are consistently in agreement. Well, yeah, I mean, pervy, dude, come on. You know, it's not like we're kindergarten here anymore, although I can agree that some things were a bit unnecessarily detailed. Let's just say that. A bit too much. Like, even for me as an adult, I would find that this is a little bit, sometimes, that it's too much detail on things that don't need that much detail, and it kind of detracts and derails from the point. If that's what you mean, then I agree with that as well. Yeah, I can agree with that as well. Like, he does. One thing that I like though is that he doesn't exactly take prisoners when it comes to you know, who can be potentially safe and not. The good thing about it is that like that's my problem with a lot of how Hollywood handles, especially in Jurassic Park franchise, with the kids characters. With the Jurassic Park franchise, you know that they're not gonna die, so you don't fear for them anymore. You know that they're perfectly safe because they're not gonna get eaten or killed. In Game of Thrones or George Martin's Song of Ice and Fire, nobody is really safe, and I like that. I like the idea that even the kids or women or children, whatever, men, anybody, nobody is safe. Everybody is potentially vulnerable to be killed for whatever stupid reason, and I like that. I do. Yeah, I know. I would have rather had a velociraptor eat Kelly than her perform some gymnastics, which in turn forced some mental gymnastics on my head to be thinking too much about what's going on and being distracted from the main point of that scene overall. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I would totally see her being eaten. That would be nice. She was just completely unnecessary. I don't see the need for that character to be in that movie. I'm sorry that I'm not sorry, but her character doesn't contribute to the plot. Why was she there? Therefore, she could have been eaten. Maybe that would have been a contribution. But if not, then I didn't see the point of her being there. That's the same with some other characters from later installments as well. Like, you just don't see why they are there. What are they doing there? What's the point? Yeah, unfortunately, one of the problems is, you know, that, how do I say this? In Game of Thrones later seasons, yeah, you lost a lot of really, some of the best cast members, because let's be fair, with all my respects to Emilia Clarke and Kit Harington for at least doing their best to bring us the most important characters of the saga to life, and I wouldn't say that they're failing at it, they're doing wonderfully, but they are by far not the best actors on the show, in the history of the show. We had some of the much better actors still present, and many more that were around before they departed the show. I will just have to be honest about that. Lena Headey, and I think I would actually add that aside from Lena Headey, for me personally, I would say Rory McCann is really good, the Hound. He's amazing. In my opinion, he's actually a very good actor. I quite like Peter Dinklage as Tyrion, although I think that he's kind of no longer as fascinating as he was. Like, he was a much more interesting character initially than he is now. He's kind of like, but it's also, you gotta understand, it wouldn't be realistic and would be a bit strange if they were all the same as they were before, because it at least shows that characters are changing over time, and that's important. And um, Yeah, Sean Bean was amazing as well, and also Robert Baratheon, Mark Addy is brilliant. I think he was actually so fucking awesome as Robert Baratheon. He doesn't even match him fully in physical description because he was supposed to be like at least one or so, something like that, like 1 or 2 heads taller than Ned Stark, and I think in the show they are about the same height. But I didn't even pay attention to that because Mark Addy just really killed that role. He was just so awesome. It's you got fat. My goodness, he's so amazing at that. And yeah, season one was perfect. But I mean, it's this kind of topic where people will tend to agree and disagree quite a lot in terms of which seasons are their favorite. So I'll just give my favorite ones. My favorite was season one, season four, season 6 and 7 so far. Those are my favorite seasons. Everything that I didn't list, it had its good stuff in it, but I wouldn't put them on top of my list in terms of which seasons I personally enjoyed. Like, there were some good things, but I had to go through some of the boring stuff in order to get to those good things. While these seasons are listed, to me, they were all the way through interesting to watch. That's me, as the viewer, giving you my honest feedback. From the writing point of view, I think the best ones, I'd probably say season 1 definitely is the best one from the writing point of view so far. Season 7 unfortunately has a lot of problems. Season 6, I actually quite liked season 6 for the writing itself. Season 4 had brilliant acting. Pedro Pascal as Oberyn Martell, my absolute favorite. Absolutely loved him. James Cosmo as Commander Mormont was great. I liked him as well. I actually see him almost every Saturday, by the way. Yeah, Pedro was amazing. Pedro was just fucking brilliant. He was like, I mean, he not only did he nail Oberyn, but I think he actually outdone his performance than his character did in the books. Like, in the books, he was like, yeah, cool, but in the movies, and how he was just like bringing that level of arrogance, but really sharp kind of badassery, and at the same time, it was amazing. And I loved how the level of threat potentially increased when he was like, "Tell your father I'm here. Tell him Lannisters are the only ones who pay their debts." Like, I just like, when I heard him say that line, I was like, damn, like, this guy doesn't fuck around. Or when he went with the dagger, like when he went for this, he went like, like just stalling, and then went like, BAM! Just been like, longsword is a bad option in close quarters. That was awesome. I do have a Discord, no, I don't have a Discord server actually. I do have a program, but I rarely use it. I don't really go on there much. I'm mostly either here or on Facebook, in my group, in my page. I'm also hanging around in the groups as well, in Paleoworld and Paleoworld Creative Corner. That's where I basically hang out. Don't really hang out in Discord very much. Maybe I might create my own thing. What do you need to create a server? Do you just literally need to make, like, what? Is it like a tab, basically? Is that what it is? So you can basically leave it there and people can just join it, and you can, basically come in whenever, and people can just talk to each other while I'm away and all of that? Is that what it is? Awesome, thank you very much. Thank you for subscribing, and make sure you share and support the movement. Right, so, let's see. Well, okay, yeah, fair enough. So, yeah, maybe I might actually create one, just so that you guys can hang out even while I'm away as well. So you can just do stuff in the meantime, while I'm not looking. Oh my goodness, see, that's one plate. How long it took me to do. Insane, isn't it? It's absolutely insane. pure mental, bro. Oh my goodness. But that's the whole point. Like, you kind of put more into it, and then you just eventually look at it and be like, yeah, happy with the results. That's the main point. You want to be happy with what you have achieved, or else there is no point. Yeah. Now let's add some more of this extra detail that I'm doing, to add some extra kind of, like, what I'm trying to do is see right here on the plates you have these kind of ridges that go up from these kind of bumps, yeah, from these extra scaly bumps, and what I'm trying to do is just put more of them on there on the other side now, because one side already got them but the other side doesn't have them yet, so I'm gonna have to consistently apply it to both sides so that I can slowly progress my way all the way up here. And what we'll do next after we're done is we're gonna cut off a little bit of the butt from here, and when we do the tail, the plate on the tail is gonna protrude slightly forward, so that when we connect the tail to this, it will overlap a little bit, like so, from this side here, from this plate. And that way, when you connect it, it's gonna look like it's meant to be a whole thing. But that will be much later. We're still nowhere near that yet. It's quite a long way to go. And hello to everyone who has just showed up as well. In case you are completely new to the stream, welcome. So one of the ways to do it is, I'll show you what I'm doing here. Hold on a second. So we have to show you, reveal a few secrets, minor secrets, nothing major. So you see this thing here, right? See that? So this will go on this area here at the bottom, and then it will be smoothed and protruded a bit more to create that kind of texture shape, yeah? Makes sense? So put it here, so I'll show you where it is now. I'll just try to carefully lift it up without doing any damage. So you see this plate right here, yeah? See that? So now it needs to be properly evened out and embedded into it. I don't even go near Ark Survival. I never did and don't intend to. It's not worth it. No, but in all seriousness though, it's an absolute crap, to be honest. I don't see anything particularly great about this game. It's just completely, like, all over the place. Like, it doesn't have any points to it, I don't know. Pun not intended, but you know what I'm saying. Now let's see, for the colors I'm gonna give it a mix of browns and beige, highly in the beige if you're watching, which you're probably not, but beige definitely, and so green, beige and brown. Like, that's gonna be my main palette of shades of these kind of colors. And potentially, I might do something interesting with the actual plates coloration. I will think of something. I've got some ideas, but I haven't really brainstormed them very much. So I will eventually, though. I will. We will give it some nice colors, I promise. You won't be disappointed. You're gonna love it. You are gonna love it. I'll make sure you will. No, I'm not. Well, just for kicks, I suppose. But I don't know, man. I kind of want to stay away from that kind of crap, to be honest. I mean, once there's going to be something new and really interesting made out there, then I will obviously resume the creature review, because the whole point of doing creature reviews is if it's actually going to be something that's truly interesting. And since we have a lot of other things now to produce the content for here, it kind of I kind of find that the creature review series are not on top of the priority unless there is something truly like interesting to kind of you know, dig into. Right. Well, variety of browns really, mate. Like all sorts of different, like dark brown, light brown, maybe even redwood brown. Because don't forget that there's gonna be like a variety of different individually picked out details. Some of them may even be black, some of them may be a bit lighter. It's just to create a nice kind of variety of background and gradient on the coloration. So it doesn't look too flat or monotone, you know what I mean? But at the same time, so it doesn't look like a freaking rainbow shit show. I don't like cartoonish kind of colors personally. I absolutely despise it when, you know, they make cartoonish colors, unless it's specifically for this style of game or cartoon. But if it's somewhat supposed to be representing realistic, then yeah, certain things are just not gonna do it for me. But again, I'm sharing my thoughts and views, okay? Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. It's just how I prefer to do it. Well, I mean, they weren't bad. There were some cool designs, I guess, perhaps, but I mean, it's obviously a bit too fantasy to me. And overall, it doesn't create this sort of sense of, you know, of realism as far as the life of these creatures goes. Because if I'm watching these kind of things, I don't just want a cartoon story which claims to be a documentary of some sort, or educational somewhat. I kind of want to be able to tell what am I actually watching. And I like certain things about it, but there are certain things that are just too shoehorned in there, which kind of ruined the immersion for me personally. So that's just me. Doesn't say it's a bad program, it's fun, it's entertainment, I guess, but that's as far as I would take it. I wouldn't take it any further than that. Not gonna be obviously throwing tomatoes at it, but yeah, it's just entertainment, nothing more to it. And personally, I would have produced something that's considerably difficult to find these days, and that is the kind of content and programs that actually are educative and can be used for educational purposes. We have tons of stuff for entertainment, but we don't have nearly enough for actual educational purposes. And something that is actually reliable, I mean, as well. Something that you don't just have to constantly be like, did they get it right? Did they get it right? Like something that you can say, yes, that's reputable, credible, and it's right. Well, rainbows as such, I don't have anything against rainbows. They're gorgeous. My main problem is that when you try to paint rainbow colors or something similar, or any kind of acidic bright colors like fucking, I don't know, bright yellow, bright pink, red, purple, all of that kind of magenta, whatever nonsense, and put it on this thing. Like, seriously, just no. I mean, you're welcome to do it if you want, but don't show this to me because I'm gonna have nightmares after that. Although, interestingly enough, hold on. hold on. Like, we're gonna look now. Hold on. Okay, I'm just gonna randomly find a page here, and I'll show you what I mean. So bear with me. Let's see. Where is it? Come on. I'm pretty sure there was something. Come on. Oh yeah, just as I try to find something, it's being a bitch and doesn't let me find it. Yeah, hold on a moment. Sorry. It's only showing me all the good stuff. It's not showing me the bad stuff that I was trying to point out. I know that it had it there. Don't make me look stupid in front of my subscribers' book. Come on, show me something stupid, so I don't look stupid. Am I gonna end up looking stupid after all? Come on, book. You're a traitor. You're treasonous. Hold on a moment. Yeah, no, there was a color somewhere I've seen that's definitely completely off the rails to me. Like, it's something that I would never wanna do if I'm going to do a realistic, you know, representation of a dinosaur. Oh, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure I saw it. Oh, right here. There we go. Thank you. Like, what is... You see this? You see this? This right here? Why is it purple? Why is it purple? Like, I don't want that. I don't want that. So that's why I'm not doing it purple. Never. If you pay me like fucking, I don't know, $5,000, I will paint it purple. Well, okay, fine. I'll do it for 500. 500, okay? $500 and I'll do it purple. Shall I open up the Patreon campaign? Right. Oh my goodness. What's going on? Yeah, I was gonna say exactly, like, are you trying to camouflage against aubergines or something? Like, what the hell is this? Excuse me. And there's lots of other artwork I've seen like that as well. That says, oh, Paleoart, and then I'm looking at it, it's like pink or purple. I'm like, seriously, what is this? Like, what is this? Are you joking? Are you trying to tell all these kids who are reading these books that dinosaurs were purple? That's very, very naughty, very bad. You should not do that. That's misinformation. That's really bad. Yes, that's right. Candid Sculpts, you are correct. Most Paleoart, quote unquote, is not even a proper Paleoart. That's a fact, and that's a preach, brother. Preach. So a lot of things claim to be Paleoart, which they really aren't. And I just lost a piece of clay somewhere. Where'd you go? Come on, don't be shy. Oh, where'd you go? Then if it's gonna end up on the floor, I'm gonna step on it, obviously, when I don't see it. I bet it's gonna happen like that. Okay, whatever. I'll find it later. No, it's not here, is it? No. Anybody see where it went by any chance? If you do, let me know, but I don't see it. Yeah, like if it's dark black maybe, or if it's, you know, if it's a small animal and it has like different kind of stripy little things for the camouflage, whatever, you know, like that's possible. Maybe. For that, I'd say 50 bucks. But for a purple Parasaurolophus or purple Stegosaurus or something, 500. So let me know if you want me to start a Patreon campaign for that. If we reach 500 bucks, I'm gonna paint a Stegosaurus purple with pink plates and like hearts and shit. Whatever you want, anything. By the way, can you see me? Because I'm not sure what's going on my PC screen, but it looks like I'm lagging. Am I lagging? Okay, that's fine. It must be my PC then, that's okay. Because it's kind of trying to synchronize itself with my phone, so that's okay. As long as it doesn't crash, so it don't matter. Right. Yeah, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna raise the cam a little bit, because I forgot that was all because I was sitting on the floor, not on a chair at that moment. So we're just gonna raise it a little bit, like so, just like that for now. Not too high, because otherwise you're not gonna be able to see anything. So just move it a little bit here. No, not this way, that's too much. Just about here, I think is fine. My eyeball. Right. And we can move that a little bit closer. I mean, I want more focus to actually be on Stegosaurus rather than myself at this point, so apologies if you don't see my face. So, and you, again, documents. We don't need documents in this shot. Okay. We will just lift it up a little bit here. We're gonna ignore the legs, okay? Let's ignore the legs for now and just look at the top areas. Right, okay, so that's sorted for now. So let's discuss some of the other things. I wanted to quickly say I will be, after I do the Stegosaurus, then of course, first things first, I need to get some silicon. I need to get the mold done for the Velociraptor versus Protoceratops. That's the first one to go. And then after that, I will probably do the Stegosaurus. And then after that, I will finish doing the current work in progress that I still have postponed for now, because I wanted to do these ones first, because they are kind of a bit more popular ones. And more people are interested in them. Because if I can't find a decent way to support this hobby, I will not be able to make more cool pieces and content. So I need this support. And the best way to do it is to give you something that's a bit more popular, that you already know and recognize, and then introduce you to something else that is also interesting, but just not as well known and popular, perhaps. Also, those of you who have subscribed to my page on the Facebook, that's called AK Rex Arts. Hold on a second, actually. I'll drop the link actually in the box here. Just a moment. That shouldn't take long. No, no Mohawk. So there, that's the link to the page. So those of you who haven't still done it, please make sure you subscribe. Yeah, I've seen it a long time ago, but I think it's already dated. And I'll be honest, I don't know if, you know, if I'm gonna be really playing this game a lot, because I mean, I kind of was hoping that they would do something nice for it, but I find that I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for this, but I find their designs mostly a bit boring. For dinosaurs specifically. Like, it has some potential, but it's just something is kind of not there. It's just something is not quite pulling me over that edge to kind of really say, yes, it's amazing. Like, it's good, but I would not put it at the top of my, list of what I think I consider to be somewhat awesome. And mind you, I'm extremely critical and I have a very fussy taste, so it's quite hard to please me. Thank you, thank you. Trying my best. Sorry about the plane again. That's what you get for leaving half an hour from the airport. I mean, it depends what you mean. Oh, long time. I wouldn't say long time. I mean, I've only started doing this series only like in the beginning of... When was it when I made the first piece? The first piece was my Echinocephalus, and I think that was like end of September or beginning of October. Maybe mid-September probably, I would imagine. Not to lie, obviously, but I'm just trying to remember. It wasn't relatively long ago. It's actually been fairly recent. So, yeah. But yeah, I've sculpted before with other types of clay and plasticine and stuff, but it kind of was never really taking to that sort of level as I'm trying to achieve here. I'm kind of really trying to get a nice series of work out there for people to be able to purchase as well, and my main aim is to make a collection of something that's really gonna be nice and interesting, both pleasing to the eye, both hopefully unique enough, but at the same time following the evidence of science as much as I can, where I can. And of course, 1 to 10 scale is an awesome scale to work with. The problem is the spacing, issue with the space. And my oven will not be able to fit anything that's bigger than basically this. This is as big as I can go with as far as the oven goes. In fact, actually, not even as big as that. About this size, basically, like slightly bigger than that. That's as much as I can fit in my oven. Anything bigger than that is not gonna fit. Well, to give you an indication, for the plates, I've done about 2 of them, or like 1 roughly, throughout the whole stream session. So yeah, because I was obviously getting distracted for the chats and sometimes taking breaks, but generally, yeah, it can take several hours, but for the skin, it's a bit easier. Because of this. So you see the surface, just to give you a sample, right here. It's completely flat. Now what I do is give a bit of a fucking, basically spit on this and then do that. There you go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. No, it's, I mean, we don't really know a sexual dimorphism, but we decided that it's a Maurice, so Maurice is a male, therefore it's gonna be a male. But you can still, you know, paint it as Maurice, or you can paint it as Sophie, for example. Maurice and Sophie, you know. I think that sounds kind of good. Plus, there are many other reasons why their plates could be chipped, because some of the plates are gonna have chipped. Look. There's already a chipped plate here. Look. See here? This one here? It's already chipped. Yeah, I'll show you. Basically, there are tools like this. Yeah, hold on. It's just to kind of grab one here. Yeah. So you basically do a bunch of these kind of, and you continue with the pattern, yeah? And then when you bake it, then you apply it to the surface. I mean, nobody can tell for sure because we don't have any evidence of directly what they could be used exactly for. One of the obvious ones is display. This could be quite colorful. They could be both for intimidation purposes, for potential predators, or just, you know, display sort of thing for attracting a mate. If males had them differently colored, for example. And the other potential is that they stop predators from biting from the top, because the top area going from the top to the bottom is the strongest point that you can apply the pressure, and the pressure itself adds a lot of force and strength to the bite when a predator tries to attack it, and it makes sense for that particular angle at which it would likely get attacked. So this area protects this place here, and it potentially doesn't allow any deep wounds to be inflicted on a side, because it's not very easy to just bite a chunk from the side unless it gets a very decent grip. And it gets a better control of that area. That's my personal opinion, because it kind of makes sense. So it's basically like a very early sort of style, you could say armor, maybe, of a degree. Well, one of the proposed ideas for mating was that the female would basically lay down sideways and the male would mount her on top. So you're talking almost missionary. Slightly different type of missionary, but let's not get into that, because, well, you know, this is not what the video is about, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's a topic for another time. So, yeah. Yes, also that's true. If there is any small predators or specifically, it would be helpful for younger animals, perhaps, because older animals pretty much grow out of being potentially the targets of the Small predators, given their complexion and constitution, they are quite powerful. So small predators are risking way too much, and predators tend to be very smart to be able to assess the viability and the risks involved when it comes to dealing with potential prey item. And usually when there is abundance of prey around, they tend to pick the ones that's where the least risk is involved. That's generally what we know from most of the predators, and that's consistent for all animal predators in general when you talk about vertebrates in particular. And one of the things to understand, yes, that if it was when it was smaller, it still had some degree of plates. So when it was kind of like, teenager, for example, that could potentially protect it from being attacked and mounted on top by smaller predators that try to jump on it and be able to grab on it so that they can, start doing their things if there were any of them doing that sort of stuff. And this also means that even if it tried to get a grip from the plates here, it will be easier for the animal to just kind of nudge it off and shake it off its back, because it don't provide a very good solid grip. I would say it's possible, and the problem is that Stego is heavier than an aloe, to my understanding, because it's got a higher mass concentration in this area. And an Allosaurus, although longer creature, it doesn't have a whole lot of mass concentrated in any specific area to be able to really apply enough pressure or force to topple over the Stego. Stego is a quadruped as well, so it has a lot more solid foundation. So all it has to do is lower its knees a little bit, back up a little bit, and just make sure that that tail is in a very nice range and arc to be able to control the space where it's fighting. And as long as it can do that and keep its neck protected somehow and away from the teeth or claws, it's pretty much guaranteed that it's gonna be able to outfight this Allosaurus. But it's still very risky. It means that once it gets a good bite on the neck, which is still quite vulnerable despite these tiny plates here, it's still possible for it to, do some significant damage to it. So if anything, it wants to as much avoid this area. This is the most exposed weak point of the armor for the Stegosaurus, and the head itself, if I dare say so as well. Ha, thank you. Let's do 1,000 subscribers. Come on, we're halfway there, by the way, so we need 500 more at least for 1K. And then we'll be able to take this channel off the ground, get monetization on and all of that kind of lovely jazz. Get more people sharing, get more people coming in, discussing things, bringing intellectual discussions and conversations to the table. That's what we want. Oh, and by the way, if the idea of osteoderms, are true, if there were any osteoderms here, they could potentially serve as some kind of, not even maybe the real armor, but more so creates a perception for the predator that might potentially fool it into thinking that it's armor. If there were any analog creatures that had these kind of osteoderms armor, because some creatures can potentially deploy the deception methods to make somebody, a predator, think that they are dangerous when in reality they're not really. So they can, but I'm just kind of obviously going into wild territory here, so don't take my word for it, but the point is that you kind of see this happen sometimes. Some animals use this as defensive mechanism. They just find any possible means that they can to, discourage the predator from wanting to kill them. The point is to stay alive, basically. If they can do whatever it is that they do long enough for the predator to lose interest, that's all they really need to do. Oh yeah, I briefly recall some distant memories from that because I haven't played the Isle for a long time, and I kind of lost my interest a little bit in that game, to be honest. I kind of just really became boring to me. Just really got bored of it. Well, so yeah, that's talk about repeating my sentences. Yeah, so you get the point. My friend Aram, who I used to frequently make the videos of the Isle with, he still plays the game. So from time to time, he's actually a lot more active in that game right now than I am. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like it's really pretty, but you once you get used to it, then it kind of, you know, you lose the interest. I have a very good analog, real life example to compare it to, but I don't know. In that case, I would have had to apply age restrictions. So yeah, can't do it, but you probably guess where I could be potentially going with that. But no derailing. Stay focused on the point. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, to get back to the discussion about the defensive mechanisms and stuff, I really like the idea of exploring more a bit about how the armor was used in dinosaurs and whether or not and how predators were evolving to somehow try to find means to expose the weak spots of this armor and how they would be able to take down these animals. The thing to consider as well is that armored animals are not the only ones on the menu. There are many other unarmored prey that were on the menu as well, which are usually the preferable sources for prey. That is not to say that, say, a Triceratops, and I consider Triceratops to be an armored animal to a degree, that it's, well, it's still on the menu, despite the fact that it's on one, like I said in previous streams, I believe. If it's an open fight duel, 1 versus 1, T-Rex will get owned by a Triceratops. If they're both in their prime, both healthy, and in good physical condition, 1 versus 1, face-to-face, open combat, T-Rex would not win that fight. It's just too much. It's just not going to be able to control the space enough to be able to get a good grip on the trike without risking getting killed or severely injured to disable itself from hunting. So I'd say, unless it's an ambush or there's like two of them, one is distracting and the other one is coming in and just going, like, getting a grip on it, then you're pretty much you're stuck with it basically at a stalemate. Yeah, like I said, we're not talking about feathered stegosaurids. This is heresy, and we're gonna start Patreon campaign for flamethrower if I ever hear about feathered stegos again on this channel. Right. Okay. So let's do. I'll tell you what. Let's. What time is it? Oh, it's 10 o'clock here. Okay. Let's just put this a bit more to the forefront, and we'll just relax a little bit before I call it a night, because I think it's already getting to the point where it's time to conclude the session. But let me just see if I can find a decent angle for it. Okay, there we are. Some more biscuits. To be honest, it's generally considered by some scientists, and even, well, myself, although I don't claim to be a scientist, I'm just saying some scientists and me, that it's a plausible idea, given that they share a lot of general similarities, but I would say not to go there unless we have direct evidence for it. Also, don't forget, osteoderms are actually the bony kind of things that are covered in, I think, keratin or something, or skin. So they actually have a bone sort of basis to it. While the scales themselves, the soft tissue, can also sometimes resemble osteoderms, but they may not themselves be the true osteoderms. So there are differences between that. But if you're talking about true osteoderms, then I think unless we find evidence for them to be present, which we only see in a few, like we see it in Carnotaurus, we see it in Ceratosaurus, I do not think that we see it anywhere in the Allosaurids, Megalosauroids, or even Tyrannosauroids, or Tyrannosaurida specifically, because they are the only scaly Coelurosaurs currently known to be the exception from the general pattern of filamentous dinosaurs in that group. Yes, I definitely say the most known predators, and well-known ones as well. You would have Allosaurus, you would have Stegosaurus and Torvosaurus, but the species, I would probably expect that there will be several species of Allosaurus, although I don't know if they would be around the same period exactly, or not. But Torvosaurus tanneri and Allosaurus fragilis are my kind of default ones, and Ceratosaurus as well, the only one known from the single species from that period. You could potentially say maybe Saurophaganax if it truly is what it is, as in the separate taxon. Then yes, I would say there are at least potentially 3 or 4 predators that could be dangerous to a Stegosaurus. Ankylosaurus and a T-Rex in a one-on-one fight, an encounter, I would say it's likely to be a similar result, but I would say, surprisingly enough, I find it... let's bring this one here, just for the demonstration purposes. So I'll put the Stegosaurus aside and we will just try to see if we can recreate the scenario here. I mean, I would have to pick which one. Probably say let's pick my sculpt here to demonstrate the point. So, although it should be a bit more massive, so my idea is that if we are face to face, Ankylosaurus has armor pretty much all over the place, and the best way to go about it is to face it at an arc to control the area here to avoid it from getting close. But the problem is, if it gets a good bite here in the neck area, in this area here, although this is not an accurate design, it's a Papo figure after all, but still, this is the weakest point of grip that Tyrannosaurus can exploit, and here is how. It's the thinnest area of the neck, and also, given the power and structure of the jaws and teeth of Tyrannosaurus rex, it can actually bite into it enough to potentially be able to provide itself with a good pressure and grip. So there are several ways that it can take it down. That is, if we're talking about Tyrannosaurus actually succeeding, which Still, considering everything that I'm about to say, is a very unlikely scenario, in my opinion. But if it were to succeed, it would need to get a good grip and either snap its neck or strangle it just by applying the pressure. Try to see if it can strangle it. Because hit and run here will not work because there's literally nothing here. Flopping it over is not gonna work because it's, like I said, this is not an accurate design, but generally what would happen is that it's too low to the gravity, its gravity center is too low to the ground, so you cannot really flip it over. It's not gonna work. So I would say it's still gonna be unlikely, but I think it's more interesting in the sense that it's more possible for it to do it than it would be with a one-on-one face-to-face combat with a Triceratops, interestingly enough, although Ankylosaurus is better armored, but it's not as maneuverable. Triceratops can control its front just by tilting its head. All it has to do is make sure that it doesn't get at an angle behind it here to be able to bite it or get any kind of control and manipulate it in anything. But generally speaking, you will find that Ankylosaurus would not have the same kind of mobility, but if it gets to hit it with a tail club, that's a problem. And that's where we look at the viability of the risk. Would it want to risk itself to go up against an Ankylosaurus unless ambushing, but not in a one-on-one open combat? Ambush, yes. Open combat like that, I'd probably say no. I'd probably say no. No, Nolan, I don't think they actually specifically give that sort of description. To my recollection, you would have to go back to the paper, but based on my memory, if it doesn't fail me, so I would say, I would advise to basically test whatever claims I make here by reading the paper itself. But I don't think it specifically does that. It just describes where exactly are the structures located, the facial integuments, like how far they spread. And they do indicate, based on the description, that they go all the way down to the tooth row. At least that's evident from either the main paper or probably was a supplementary material. I think it was in the supplementary material, but you would have to go over the paper as well, again, because I haven't read it for a long time. Yeah, if you're talking about pair hunting, yes, even a frontal assault with a pair would be possible because it cannot defend itself from multiple fronts. You can only ever be able to defend yourself from a single front, but if you're talking about multiple fronts, that's probably gonna be very tricky, and it will mean that one can get a hold and the other one can try to kind of pin it down, so the other one gets all the dirty work done by like trying to expose that armor as much as possible, and then it's job done. And even two of them would still struggle to bring down an Ankylosaurus. But the thing is, Ankylosaurus is also a smaller animal. It's about the same size as a Stegosaurus, but just a bit more tanky, with armor on, basically. They weren't particularly huge. Triceratops is a freaking huge animal, you see? And that's where it kind of wins a bit more. And because it can control more a lot about what's going on around it by having its weapons directly here in front of it. So they're protecting its most vulnerable spot, which is usually the head. Protection is the most important thing, really, and the throat. And it's able to do that given the circumstances. So that's why I would say the trike is going to be more difficult to take down, but with Anky, armor helps. No, not from behind. You would basically, I would say, you would ambush it from the side that is least likely for it to be able to reach you with the tail, because there's always obviously going to be a certain arc where the tail can move on its own, and bear in mind, to be able to apply a hit, it's not going to be able to wave its tail all the way here by itself, so it has to go this way, but also it will be a body motion. So it's a bit like when you're throwing a punch, there's one way to throw a punch when you're doing it this way, but if you're like going full power, you're also using your hips and your body mass behind it to kind of, you know, go all the way into it. So there's a lot of body work involved, and that's the same thing when you're doing it with, you know, with your tail. If you're an Ankylosaurus, you would be also applying some body mechanics to make that hit count a bit more. So bear that in mind as well, that it would need to have that range of motion. And if a T-Rex can prevent it from doing it, then it will not be able to reach it with the weapon. And therefore, T-Rex stands better chance. Again, highly risky thing, not recommended. If there are any T-Rexes out there watching this video, don't do this at home. But you get the point though. Right, let's see what else. If it lays down, it pins itself to the ground. This restricts its mobility, and then a T-Rex has to basically bite down in the neck, the weakest area of the armor, and strangle it by applying pressure, because its jaws and teeth are durable enough to withstand that pressure. So no, that would be a bad thing to do for it, in my opinion. It would still need to keep itself off the ground to at least maintain some level of mobility. Or else it's gonna be, well, in trouble. Because don't forget, the T-Rex is also gonna be using a lot of its body mechanics and power and weight to transfer it as much as possible through its bite by applying pressure from the top. So it's not just its muscles on the neck, on the jaws and the teeth itself and everything that's working together. There's also going to be this weight that's pushing down a little bit as well. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's gonna be a lot of things involved in it. That's an interesting question. I don't know if it's actually really possible for them to do that. I don't know if their body mechanics allow them to do that. So, who knows? Who knows? Yeah, small predators which do not have any real means to hurt it. Like minor scratches don't count, let's be fair. Minor scratches probably not gonna do much, but unless it's a, you know, even the Quadoraptor, for example, I don't expect it to be messing around with anything that is armored. The Quadoraptor is not built to take down armored prey. And that, for me, that what it means is that Ankylosaurus or any other Ankylosaur, English language, don't be difficult. Right, any Ankylosaur or even a large ceratopsid potentially is off the menu for the Quadoraptor, in my opinion. So the only thing that's on the menu is within its reasonable size, a bit bigger maybe, and something that is not armored. But I think that the Quadoraptor is a chaser. I don't think it was specifically designed to take down something too heavy. It was probably a balance between a slightly bigger prey and something that's a bit faster. Maybe like an oviraptorids, because there were oviraptorids living in Hell Creek as well. So, and they would probably be fast enough, or ornithomimids as well. Lots of lovely prey available for fast runners, so I think that's kind of where its niche would go. I think it's very possible for Pachycephalosaurus to be able to headbutt. I think, personally, that it might not be probably its main go-to thing, but it might be one of the main ideas. Is maybe it's just one of the evolutionary developments of armor to protect its head better. Because come to think of it, its head is very well protected, so anything that tries to bite its head is going to have a pretty tough time doing anything to it. While in the meantime, if something like a Quadoraptor tries to bite at its head, or a smaller like subadult T-Rex, or young adult, you know, like a younger T-Rex that's potentially about similar size, not fully grown yet, tries to bite its head, all it has to do is give it a nudge, and it will, well, knock a few teeth out probably. That's already enough to kind of repel the predator. Because remember, we're not there to watch a long 1 hour duel. These fights would probably end within a few seconds, because most of these fights probably wouldn't last very long. It sounds a lot longer when we describe it, you know, by talking, but generally speaking, it probably wouldn't take for them too long to realize that something either isn't working out or whatever, and they would just turn around and leave. Yeah, exactly that. That's what I see as well. It's pretty much the same idea. Lots of concentration in one area. Oh, there we go. We have a Pachycephalosaurus here. So yeah, lots of concentration here. Lots of protection. Even the front and the back here is very well protected. Okay, we got 3 biscuits left. I'd say this, I'm gonna finish these biscuits, and that means we'll end the stream right there. So we still have time before I finish the 3 biscuits. So you can still bring up topics and ask questions in the meantime. Well, yes, of course, hips are quite vulnerable, but remember, it depends on the context and the situation and how it would be, you know, applied. Obviously, like I said, head is always the most important thing to protect, and neck. Neck can be protected by simply maneuvering, because it's a more maneuverable animal than even a trike, probably. So anything about the same size as that, if facing to face, if not ambushing, is likely not gonna get past that big dome thingamajiggy head. It's gonna get either rammed straight ahead, or it's gonna get side rammed and still knocked out of the path. So I can see that animal being able to defend itself perfectly well in an open kind of fight, but if it's gonna be facing multiple predators, it's very likely going to, you know, fail, because as soon as bites start getting through it, eventually it's gonna weaken and eventually it's gonna have to yield, unless it miraculously gets saved by another herd member, but that is assuming that if Pachycephalosaurus were even herd animals, which they probably were to a degree, but I don't know for sure. I don't really have any way to testify whether or not they were social animals to a degree that would make them living in the big groups, or whether they were small group animals, or maybe even solitary. I don't know. I think they were definitely group animals, but I don't know how big their groups actually got. Yeah, I actually like that scene when it rammed into the car and the guy just freaking fell out of the car from the other side. That was very nice. I really enjoyed it. Or Stygimoloch in the Fallen Kingdom. That was my only scene that I genuinely enjoyed from that film. I hate that film. Like I said, I prefer not to bring it up, because then I gotta go on a freaking rant rampage mode. But that scene in Fallen Kingdom with Stygimoloch was awesome. I loved it. I don't know why, I just loved it. Especially when it started just like headbutting every single human in the room. I enjoyed so much it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Genuinely did. Max, or where is it? Yeah, it's Max. Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was Max or Mac. But yeah, so Max, I think, again, it depends on the context. If you're talking about like one-on-one open combat, if both are from the get-go aware of one another, then I would say Pachycephalosaurus is gonna win 100%. The Quadoraptor doesn't stand a chance unless it's very lucky. That's my personal opinion, because it's too risky to go one-on-one against that animal in an open combat like that for a predator of a very delicate stature, compared to the Pachycephalosaurus itself. Because Pachycephalosaurus may be able to take 2 or 3 hits maybe, or bites or whatever, or scratches from the Dakotaraptor before it starts yielding. Dakotaraptor will probably not be able to take a single hit from a Pachycephalosaurus. That's my personal opinion. So more risks are basically, and odds are against the Dakotaraptor. Yes, The Lost World was an awesome movie. For me, like I said, it's only the first and the second film. Everything else doesn't exist for me. That's it. That's just how it is. With a few minor pinpoints there and then, but that's it. I think it's a bit of a combination of factors. There's one specific one that you could have to take into account, that obviously the big Allosauroid and Megalosauroid predators started kind of declining already, and then as they started declining, at the same time Tyrannosaur predators started slowly kind of emerging more, because most of the Tyrannosaurids, that we are talking about specifically, the true Tyrannosaurs, quote unquote, they are mostly, how do I say that? They're mostly later period, and none of them actually coexisted with any large Carcharodontosaurids, so it's not like they outcompeted each other, but it's more like that one started declining and the other one started taking up the space of the niche eventually, and just developed better adaptations to deal with more variety of prey. The more prey you can potentially deal with, technically the more successful you would be, because you have more sources of food, you have more means to control the population of that prey, and therefore your viability to survive is better. Chances of survival are better. The less specialized you are, the better you are at odds with surviving, you know what I'm saying? So, of course, until the very massive extinction finally, happened, and then all dinosaurs went extinct, but we don't take that into account, because they all died anyway. Take care, Nolan. Thanks for coming. Those of you still here, just a reminder, as soon as I finish eating these 3 biscuits, I'm gonna be calling it a night as well. I mean, I haven't really looked into that design because, generally speaking, like I said, I don't really intend to support them anyway. I'm just, at this point, I'm completely ignoring them as much as I can, because every time I bump into their articles or blog posts and etc., I don't know, their smokescreen rhetoric just doesn't appeal to me, and at that point when I started seeing more and more of it kind of happening, I just couldn't really even care less at this point to actually look into their designs themselves. So it's not like they listen or care about my feedback anyway. They don't care about anybody's feedback that basically does not agree with them and with their decisions, and if it's anything to do with criticism, they're not probably gonna be caring much, do they? And it's evident from a lot of other situations and encounters that I've seen, so yeah. Unfortunately, to answer your question quicker, no, I have nothing to comment about, because I just really haven't dug into it very much. But I like their Ankylosaurus model, though. I will say that. I like their Ankylosaurus model. It's really good. It's very good. Put the goblet here as well, because I know some of you like the goblet, so. Yeah, it's a very nice model. Um, it's also been acknowledged by Dr. Victoria Arbor, who is an ankylosaur specialist specifically. So, and I also want to somehow find a way to contact her later on sometime and maybe get her to come to the channel for an interview. So, it would be really interesting to talk about the armored dinosaurs with her and discuss these things. Sorry, it just got itchy in the eye. Yes, it's a toothless plushie. There we go. I have a Twitter account, but I don't really use it very much. Twitter is just a very toxic um, platform, and I'm not a fan, personally. That's why I stay away from it. I prefer to focus on things that actually are more productive, but I get what you mean. Maybe my best chance to get in touch with her, or at least get her attention, would be on Twitter, because she's likely to see my comment. So I'll try to see if I can hit her up. Yes, I like How to Train Your Dragon. I'm actually quite, you know, I mean, for something that DreamWorks way makes, and considering that I'm not a big fan of what DreamWorks does, and it's kind of a very kind of locker room toilet kind of humor mostly, which gets really annoying cliche very fast. I would say it did pretty well for me personally, and it had some really cool scenes. It had some interesting scenes, funny scenes, dramatic scenes, sad scenes, romantic scenes, all sorts of kind of scenes that I really like to see in a film as a balance overall, and it adds a very nice kind of tone to it. I didn't notice any agendas being pushed too much. At least I would have to rewatch it, but from my recollection, there wasn't anything of it. It wasn't infected by this social justice crap and NPC nonsense. So I'm very happy with the movies overall with that franchise. And yeah, the dragons. No, I'm not gonna plagiarize Shadiversity because dragons. Right. Sorry. Yeah. So you get my point. That answers the questions. I love dragons. Dragons are awesome. And I'm not even gonna bitch about the accuracy, about them having 6 limbs, but whatever. Still dragons, still awesome. Yep, that's true. All the dragons out there are basically inspired by finds of dinosaurs. Nope. I would probably say that that's actually one of the best designed dragon overall. I have only one problem with them, especially in the ones behind the lore. You know, the Balerian, the Black Dread, the biggest dragon known. How do they manage to sustain that size, and what do they eat? How do they feed them? That's been my issue from the get-go. How do they manage to maintain their size like that and not basically starve? Last biscuit, by the way. Actually, there is a bit of a confusion, and I think you have to be mindful of which universe you're looking at. But in general, Wyvern is also a dragon, technically speaking. It's just a different specialty of a kind of dragon. It's not a fire dragon, or a fire drake, as they're frequently referred to as well, based on Tolkien at least. They are basically the ones that tend to be poisonous, venomous actually, not poisonous, but you know what I'm saying. And the other thing as well is that they are basically, the distinguishing factor is not the fact that it doesn't have front limbs, I mean front, you know, the four legs. They're both not supposed to have four legs and wings, because wings are homologous to their front limbs, because they are the front limbs. They're supposed to walk like bats on their front limbs, you know what I'm saying? So that's basically how it would be accurately done, and that's why the Hobbit movies did it well with Smaug the Dragon, and also Game of Thrones did it very well as well. I think it depends on how much of the, like if you notice their weight proportions, they're actually quite slender, generally speaking. They're not particularly heavily built. And their wings are actually quite big, very large wingspan. So yes, it's possible, if you also take into account that somehow scientists still cannot figure out how a bumblebee can fly. Because bumblebees are fat as fuck, and they have very small wings, and somehow they still manage to get off the ground and fly without any problem. And it violates all rules of aerodynamics apparently, and it still flies. So go figure. Mad King didn't have a dragon. Dragons went quote-unquote extinct already when the Mad King was around. So, no, they were already gone by then. Yep, that's that. Well, it is what it is, yeah. Yep, that's what I'm saying. I have like a back garden, and when the flowers are blossoming, and we have tons of bumblebees there all the time. And I sometimes come closer to just look at them from a safe distance so I don't get to annoy them too much, although they're generally very docile, they don't tend to be very aggressive. So, yeah, they're too freaking fat to fly. Why do they fly? And yet they're doing it perfectly like nothing, like nobody's business. They're just flying around like, you know, like it's no big deal. And yet, it's against every freaking rule of aerodynamics. Yeah, bumblebees are awesome. We actually, one time I remember, bumblebees made a nest in our shed. And I decided, you know, my mom initially wanted to be like, shall we get pest control or something? And I just went like, you know what? Since bumblebees are not really kind of, you know, parasites or pests, technically speaking, they actually help a lot better with the garden and flowers and all of that kind of stuff. And they're not aggressive, they're very docile, they're not harmful. So I thought, let's just keep them. So what I did was I specifically opened up the door in the shed a little bit, just so that when they come out, they would be able to find their way out. Because a lot of times, because it's a clear door, they don't see that it's a glass and they keep hammering in it, and lots of times they would knock themselves out and eventually they would die. Unfortunately, some of them did. And when I noticed that a pile of dead bodies was beginning to build up, you know, in that area, I just decided, hey, you know what? I think I need to open this up a little bit and maybe open up the window so they can find their way out. And then we had almost a full garden of bumblebees just jumping around the flowers like freaking crazy. It was awesome. It was only one time though. We haven't had them come like that again. It was like still around, but not nearly as many as that one time in summer. Don't remember, I think it was like summer 2015 or 14 or something like that. Oh yeah, well, wasps, yeah. But I don't know why, but wasps don't seem to fuck with me. Like, every time a wasp tries to come close, I'm just be like, hey, oi, like, get out of here, or you're getting smacked, and it just leaves. It's like somehow they understand that that I'm not here to like freaking negotiate. Like I don't take prisoners, and they just don't bother me. They just don't pick on me. They always seem to stay away from me. Like if it's my sister who is actually scared of them, by the way, they always go like bzzz, you know, here and everywhere. But as soon as like it's me, they just seem to stay away from me. I don't know why. Oh no, I don't get scared of them. If I see a wasp basically just buzzing there or trying to get on my food and stuff, I just be like, hey, get the fuck out of here, like, scram. I'm telling you, I don't take prisoners. I don't kill them. I just tell them who is the boss, so they know next time that they don't mess with me, so they can go out there alive and well and tell their friends about it. Yeah, the giant hornets, well, wasps in general, they are predators, so they either prey on spiders or they prey on like things like bees as well, or other kind of small insects that they can get their paws on, I guess. A lot of times we get spiders, really big spiders in my sister's room, and they're perfectly harmless. Actually, they're not dangerous. There are no venomous spiders in England, to my knowledge. So, and if there are any, which I don't think there are anyway, but they don't seem to be very common in any case. But the ones I'm talking about are they're about like sometimes like you know like about this size, and she would occasionally just like freaking jump into her bed under the blanket and start screaming like the whole house can hear it, and I'm like just freaking rushing upstairs, be like, what's going on? And she just points to the corner and there's like a spider sitting there, and I'm like, fucking really? Is that it? Like a spider? I thought it was a fucking thief breaking into the house and I was about to kick ass, but yeah, whatever, spider, fine. Um, well, if you're not allergic to their bites, to their stings, then you have nothing to worry about, because then they don't tend to sting unless you basically trap them and apply pressure. Sometimes if they're not very agitated, if they're not pissed off basically, they sometimes may sit on you, because if you wear any bright colors, they frequently mistaken it for flowers. So what you do, you just don't move, you let them sit on it, they realize that there's no flower there and they will just leave you. That's what bumblebees do as well. Oh, dude, I would love to go to Australia one of these days, but first of all, 24 hours flying, my goodness, even though there's a stop in Singapore in between, I still don't think I'm quite ready for that. But if I am gonna be flying to Australia, I would love to meet Shadiversity in person if I can. I'm a big fan of his content and channel, and I would love to meet him. If only, if at least for that reason alone, I would go to Australia if I have the money and the patience to last that flight. And I know there are lots of venomous things there, so yeah, I can agree. It's not that I would be scared necessarily, it's just that I would freaking be checking every little freaking corner or every little point where I sit down, every freaking shoe, every time I'm gonna be putting something on, to make sure that there's nothing that climbed inside there and waiting for me to specifically put my foot in there so it can sting me, just for that purpose alone. Like, you know, like they're campers, they're specifically chilling there like nobody's business, and then when you pick it up and when you put your hand in there, they just wait for you to do it, and then you just go bite, and you end up in a hospital or dead. Like, great, great. Well, yeah, and no, you don't fuck with the cassowary. Cassowaries are, yeah, nah, like safe distance, yeah, behind, uh, a barrier of some sort, or if I have a weapon, yeah. But if there are none of these conditions, out in the open field, if they're too close to me, no, thank you. Yeah, behind a riot shield, that's right. You'd need a fucking shield to make sure that it doesn't freaking kick your. I would say more like an oviraptor than velociraptor, though. Think of it this way. It looks more, if you notice that it's actually more closer to oviraptorids. Very close resemblance. Although I'm pretty sure they're not as closely related as we might think from the glimpse, because obviously it's quite a lot of steps probably to trace back before we can establish the relationship. Biscuits are finished, by the way, so a few more last minutes chats and we'll have to call it a night. Problem is, unfortunately, that this time as well, it's almost like 11 o'clock here, and I'm obviously gonna have to get myself another cup of tea and then probably go to bed after that, after some time. No, I believe you asked me about it, but I think I said no. Either I said no, or even if I've seen it, it must have not grabbed my attention. I'm talking about the tier zoo. Um, what else? Yes, to answer that question, yes, I can make a life-size dino if it's a small dino. I could one day. Um, all right, yeah. So we are 1 hour apart then, it seems, because it's almost 11 here. So yeah, that means that, yeah, 1 hour. So you're 1 hour ahead of me. All right, yeah. Thank you for the compliments, and good night to you too. Take care. Thanks for coming, and we'll definitely see you again, hopefully. Oh, so you're almost 3 a.m. Staying awake quite late then. Or is it? Oh, you mean 2:50 p.m.? Then yeah, it's afternoon, obviously, wherever you are. Okay, are you from United States by any chance, or Canada or something? Something. It could probably be likely either one of those if we're talking about the time zone differences. Um, okay, so yes, I presume United States then. Okay. California. Okay, Cali. I'm going back to Cali. Yeah, yeah. Had lots of fun in Los Angeles from 2014. Some funny, cool memories there. Uh, yes, I will obviously, by the time, I think it's gonna be next week. Let me quickly check what's the date on the calendar for that, because I'm expecting it to be next Thursday. So sorry about the weird angle here. I'm just gonna try to reach out to. Right. So next Thursday, that's 22nd. Yeah, I think we can make next week Thursday for a stream as usual. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get myself a new camera, or at least save up so I can actually get myself a better camera. Because if I'm gonna be investing in a camera, you know, might as well be a good one. The other alternative way for me maybe to go about it is, oh, good night, by the way. Sorry that I didn't respond timely to that one. Yeah, so yeah, I was gonna suggest, once I find a good camera, and if I don't have the funds for it, then I mean that's a potential to open up a Patreon campaign, maybe, to see if I can save up on a good quality camera, so I can bring better quality content and not have to rely on my phone, you know, glitching or not glitching and etc. So, but yeah, I will have to research for some cameras. So chances are next week might actually be the same as tonight, but maybe I might try to see if I can get maybe a different tripod so we can have a better angle setup. But yes, by the time we get a stream next week, I expect Maurice will be almost ready, at least the body and this area of it. What we can do next is, if by the time it's ready, we can do the tail. I don't even remember what that is. Honestly, I don't even remember what that is. Right, anyways, thanks everyone for coming over to the stream. I am definitely gonna log off now. It's time to basically go and get some rest and just chill a little bit, because I've got some stuff to do tomorrow as well. Lots of work as usual, and yeah, we will have to do this next week again and continue our work on Maurice the Stegosaurus. Until then, take care. If you are new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the like button, and leave comments with suggestions for topics that you want to bring out maybe, and subscribe to my page as well, the AK Rex Arts on Facebook. You can also follow me on Instagram, although it's mostly my kind of personal stuff, like, you know, where I go and do what I do, kind of usual nonsense. But if you're interested in that, feel free to find me. It's AK150884 on Instagram. So thanks very much for watching, thanks for coming, and I will see you next week, or in between, in another video. So it's time to end this. Where is it? Yep, that's just me trying to finish this whole thing. Hold on a second. Yep, bye-bye, bye-bye. And end. Alright guys, ciao.